All right, so as you'll notice, in digital art, there's a lot of repetition. And I like that about it because it really helps you think critically about how to do things. So I'm making this shape underneath her arm. I stole a shape I already used, and then I can transform it with Command T and have it work. And if I need to, I can warp it as well. But I think that shape works pretty well. I don't need to worry about everything that's overlapping. Now I need to change the color. I do that by double-clicking on the image, and I'm going to steal the background color. There we go. Okay, next I need a little triangle here. I don't think I've made a triangle within this piece, so I'll show you how to do that. It's called the Polygon Tool, and you have to tell it how many sides you want it to be. Its default is a pentagram at 5 sides, or pentagon rather at 5 sides. So I'm going to do 3 sides, and it will give me a triangle. And then, of course, I can transform that triangle to be any kind of shape I want. And this is good practice at recognizing the basic shapes. And this is necessary for character design, for designing silhouettes. But notice that this triangle is a little bit more curved. And if I want to be able to trace it, I can warp it and curve it. And then I can even turn on the overlay here. And then with the Move tool, I have it set to auto-select the layer. I can move these pieces into their spots a little bit better. And even warp them and refine them. Though I'm not going for perfection, I want it to really, at a glance, feel like the same composition. And we're just doing a lot of repetition of transforming, warping. Now I need this little lock of her hair at the back. Again, I'm going to steal a shape I already have, but make a copy of it with Command J. Command J is probably the most common shortcut we'll use in Photoshop. I wish it worked in Illustrator, but it doesn't. Instead of warp, I'll show you what distort does. You can kind of just shrink one end of something. And then at any time, you can right-click within your transform box and move to another option, like scale or rotate. So you have a lot of control. Okay, now there's kind of this orangish triangle I might throw in there. So I might Command J, steal from myself again. Move this triangle up. Rotate it. Put it in place. Distort it so I can just move the corners around where I want. It's a good way of thinking of distort. It just moves the corners. And then change the color to something orangier. And then let's see what this looks like. Yeah, so that color is not quite right. Let me choose something else. All right. And now I need that kind of dark cheekbone. So I'm going to duplicate what I just did, transform it smaller. See, it will kind of show me the edges. Maybe rotate it. Scale it. Put it right down there. And now I'm going to choose a darker color for it. And on and on and on. Now this face and the profile and this circle here, there's a few things I can do. I think what I'll choose to do is actually cut out a blue shape that's kind of warped and weird that cuts through it all. And for this, I might use the custom shape tool. So I can show you that. You go to the very bottom of the shape options, custom shape tool. You have a lot of clip art options, but I like this kind of doughy looking star. And I'm going to use it. And then I'm going to immediately choose its color and make it match the background. Then I'm going to transform it and flip it horizontally to get that little nose bump. And now I'm going to warp it and kind of push that bump where I want it. And curve the rest around. And because it's on the very top, it will let me do this. Just like rolling dough, you have to be kind of picky where you put the pressure. So the warping does take some practice. And sometimes you have to zoom in and do it a few times. Just pushing and pulling. There we go. Then I can even kind of curve her jaw back a little bit. All right. But now I need that to be filled in with that same orange. So what I can do is use a shape tool. Let's use a simple one. Fill it in with this orange color, actually maybe this orange color, maybe even a little brighter. And then I can just sink that down through the layers. Until it's what I want. Okay, if I squint, what am I still missing? I'm missing kind of the orange here, so I'll steal that. I'm going to try to get something that meets the requirements within this time period. So Command J. Move it up to the top so I can see it clearly. I can use Command right bracket to do that. Use the Move tool. Use Transform. Rotate it, flip it, scale it. Remember, I can move it through these cutouts just like pieces of paper. I'm going to warp it. Kind of pinch it off at the bottom here. Go towards her chin. Not try to get too fancy. Okay. And then find the right color. Scale it a little bit bigger. Rotate it a tiny bit. So as you get to smaller, more precise shapes, the more picky you have to be. You can always use your arrow keys to nudge them too with the Move tool. There we go. And now I want to try moving it down through the layers using Command left bracket. Yep, to about there. And then there's a little highlight that shows that her hair is catching the light there. I'm going to go ahead and just use the custom shape tool. Pick this color and just kind of plop it in there. I can stretch it out a little bit. So now I can turn on my background and I can use that auto select move and kind of find all these things, and it will keep me a little bit more honest as to the proportions. Remember, you have to always apply transformations. And I can just select the shape and then I can selectively warp them. Get them to do what I want. Work with them. Lots of detail work. And that shape's not the problem. It's the outside shape here. So I want to move that in and warp this some more. Try to work for that nose. Just squeeze it. There we go. Little nose bump. I'm making it more complicated than it needs to be by doing the negative space instead of the positive space. And I can make a duplicate of it and kind of shore it up that way. There we go. And then just fill in gaps any way you like. All right, let's see what else we can do. Play with that shadow a little bit, maybe duplicate it. Run it going this way as well. And then just this big dark shape here, maybe a couple shapes, but I need to keep moving. Move it to the top of the layers, change it to fairly dark color. And then warp it, or stretch it to work as that shadow. And if you need to, another one that's skinnier on the side here, that maybe is flipped. And squeezed. Make this kind of unique shadow. All right. So I make final tweaks. Tweaks to color, tweaks to shapes, tweaks to the placement. I add any final shapes I think I might need, like this little green inlet here. Go ahead and turn off that so I can steal the color. And maybe I need a few more of those, or at least one more for here. And so even a simple image you'll see has a lot of complex shapes going on when you're just trying to cut them out. That's what I want us to experience with this exercise. There we go. And warp can get you all these complex shapes that you're trying, if you just have the patience for it. So we start with simple shapes and we slowly make them more complex. Work from the simple to the complex. That's a good lesson for almost all art and design. The basic structure